Hi John, we're going to talk about happiness and what happiness is to people. So,
Right, happiness. It's a word we often hear about, bandied about. You're happy if you have a meal in front of you. You happen to be starving, perhaps.
that's a kind of a temporary happiness.
Well, it is, but you're also happy, for example, if you're one of these refugees on boats, perhaps reach dry land and get some shelter. It would be happiness for them.
So when someone gets to their destination.
Yeah, exactly. They get to their destination, especially if they're under persecution in countries, as Christians are. As a matter of fact, for those people that are seeking sanctuary, and I suppose happiness for them would be getting sanctuary, I think a lot more would need to be done, particularly in this country of Ireland, to house people that are fleeing persecutions, especially Christians. And I don't see any evidence from the government here that are actually looking after that aspect of it. As a matter of fact, they seem to be welcoming everybody here, bar Christians. That's my impression from what's going on. I don't see any emphasis on rescuing our persecuted brothers and sisters, Christians, Catholic Christians, in these Muslim countries where they're being persecuted. Now, for them, that's happiness. Now, what do you think happiness is?
Well, for me, I would say happiness is to be content. It's kind of like whatever floats your boat. Now, some people would probably seek out material happiness. I think there's a lot of material happiness in Ireland at the moment, and maybe in the modern world.
Correct.
And then you get people that are a little bit more deep, and they look for the more spiritual happiness. That's, you know, you were talking about your painting earlier on in a different video, and you were saying about being down by the canal or the river and reflecting on life. And for some people, I suppose that's happiness. And I suppose for me, to be overall content.
Well, that's as good a description of happiness as one could wish for, to be content. For some people, it's a back on a horse that wins a race. For quite a few people in this country, considering bookies' offices are open 7 days a week, until 10 or 11 at night, a fact that doesn't happen on the continent in any of the other European countries, with the exception of Britain, and of course they're not now, they've voted to leave Europe. So it's a peculiar pastime in this country, backing horses. So having winners might be happiness for some of those people that back horses and look at the television 7 days a week to see how the horses are doing. Other ones, happiness is perhaps winning the All Ireland, this contest between Dublin and Mayo, and next Saturday, this replay. They'll hope to be winning this, winning one or the other, and then that's happiness probably for them and for the people that support them, celebrations and all the rest of it. So is that happiness for them, I wonder? So these are some of the items that I'm just mentioning that one sees. For example, a person that thinks they're a singer. I do a bit myself.
Your wonderful voice, X Factor.
I'm not going to win any competitions. Whatever about the paintings. I'm not going to win any competition.
You might for the Latin. You're good at the Latin. Okay.
For the voice in Ireland or any other sort of a singing. Perhaps these ones, the X Factor, the voice here. Perhaps if they win the competition or even getting to take part and sing, I suppose. I sometimes call it yowling. Puts me in mind of a dog howling at the moon. So, anyways, maybe that's happiness for them.
So the happiness that they're actually getting is recognition. And that becomes their happiness, that they're finally recognised.
Famous for a few
for what they are.
So this is what, for example, another one can be your dream house. I often hear the word acquiring a house, especially if you look at some of the programs or listen to some of the estate agents. The word dream house, well, I don't know, it sounds to me like you're having a sleep and you're having a dream about a house. There's no great deal about a house. It's a place where a person needs to put down their head and have bedrooms and have somewhere to eat and that. So the word dream nearly shouldn't be applied to a house in this country or any other country, which you often hear the phrase by these people saying, well, we look for your dream house.
Okay, well, we so far we've talked about kind of short-term happiness, okay?
Correct.
What is long-term happiness? Can it be achieved, do you think?
The experts that have studied this business of what is happiness, is it material things? No. Is it money? No. Spirituality, believe it or not, is the highest form of happiness for the human being. Now, you don't hear that mentioned. The highest form of happiness. Now, this is a very profound statement that philosophers and thinkers have arrived at, and they're not all perhaps Christian, but people that have tried to study this and see what is it that gives the human being the greatest happiness. You mentioned contentment, that's a form of spirituality. So the spiritual nature of the human being, if they use it, is what gives them the greatest happiness.
But how can a person get in touch? I mean, that sounds like a great idea, okay, for long-term happiness. But how can a person get in touch with their spirituality?
Well, the first thing is, how do you, if you want food items, you go to a supermarket. Where do you go if you want to try to develop this spiritual aspect of your character, which every human being has? You go to a church. If you're a Catholic church. If you're belonging to some of the other Christian churches, you go there. So you seek the spiritual nature, even though you are in the material world, shall we say, but you're seeking something outside yourself. That's what spirituality is. Spirituality spirituality is a marvelous concept that there's a little item here, if I can just find it, and I hope I'm not going to delay there are gifts that are rich in the heart, and that you sometimes love those who are unable to love or don't love you. It's not a selfish motive just for yourself. It is something that involves that aspect of your soul, for want of a better word, that reaches out to the unknown creator, if you like.
So in other words, if to make yourself happy, you make other people happy. Well, in making other people happy, you make yourself happy. Is that what you're saying?
It's correct. And as I say, it is something that a person can do oneself. It doesn't necessarily sometimes have to be in a church. It can be out walking. It can be in the midst of a crowd. It can be anywhere where you look in that you meditate, that you look for the good in humanity, not the bad. You don't continuously look for material items and goods to satisfy this aspect of your nature. It is not, unfortunately, you don't hear about it on the media, you don't hear about it from any of these experts. Sometimes you don't even hear from the ministers and priests and all the rest of it. You don't hear enough emphasis on the spiritual side of the human being, which is very, very important.
You have many, many fans on the internet, on Facebook and on YouTube. Can you give them a big happy smile for us before we go?
Well, I just say, look into your inner self, my friends, and realise the potential that's there. Every one of us, including the friends that I have in the Christian and Jobs Action Party and on the websites, look into yourself and bring out that marvellous hidden gem that's within you and take time to develop it.
Sunny thoughts on a sunny day. Thank you very much, John.
You're most welcome.